I'm Major Carolyn Phillips, Director of Operations of the 312th Training Squadron. On behalf of Colonel Ron Tabor, Commander of the 17th Training Wing, it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's dedication ceremony. Today's ceremony will include the arrival of the official party, presentation of the colors, the national anthem, unveiling of the portrait of Chief Warrant Officer Lewis F. Garland, and remarks from Chief Master Sergeant Doug Knowles, Chief Master Sergeant Bobby Johns, and Lou Garland Jr., Rusty. Call the troops to attention. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the entrance of the official party. Today's official party includes Colonel Ron Tabor, Commander of the 17th Training Wing, his wife Ellen, Mrs. Lewis Garland, retired Chief Master Sergeant Doug Knowles, and Chief Master Sergeant Bobby Johns. Please remain standing for the presentation of the colors, the national anthem, and the invocation. Hoist the colors. Put the troops at parade rest. Master Sergeant Miles Butler, Chief of Advanced Fire Protection Training, will give today's invocation.
May we pray? Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day in which we can come and honor a man that contributed so much to the Air Force and fire protection. We also thank you for the Garland family, for their love, support that they gave Chief Warrant Officer Garland. We humbly seek your divine blessing on this fire academy and the firefighting training that is proudly conducted within these walls. In your name we pray. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Begin our ceremony today with some remarks from Colonel Ron Tabor, our training wing commander.
Thank you, Major Phillips. Good morning, everybody. This is truly a great day for Goodfellow Air Force Base. Mrs. Garland, well, it's an honor to have you and your family here today. As I was meeting with the Garland family in the office earlier this morning, I told them I was sort of raised in a firehouse. I have a special affinity for fire. I have a cousin that is the same age as I am, and he's the downtown fire chief in Oklahoma City. And his father, my uncle, was a chief in Oklahoma City, and so Anthony and I grew up crawling all over fire trucks our entire life. And when I came to Goodfellow and found out that we were going to have a fire school here, I said, this is going to be neat. Well, let me tell you what we have here at Goodfellow. We don't have a fire school. We got a fire academy. And it's the best in the United States. I've had a few folks walk up to me and say, it really looks nice. There's a lot of spit and polish on it. And I take a great deal of pride in telling them, we didn't do this for the dedication today. This is the standards that we maintain here for the Fire Academy. And the spirit of the soldiers, Marines, and airmen are what make this facility and the training the finest that you'll find any place in the United States. And it's with a tribute to Chief Garland that we will dedicate this facility to him, because he laid the foundation for us and what we have here today. Mrs. Garland, welcome. To your daughters and son, Rusty, welcome. It's an honor to have you all here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Taylor. Chief Warrant Officer Lewis F. Garland was a pioneer in Air Force fire protection training and operations. He developed blueprints for the fire protection career field and training system. Chief Garland was the Air Force leader in fire protection training and brought about a revolution in training standards. Always dedicated to excellence, he introduced crash firefighting agents and techniques that today are the standard for both military and civilian fire departments. The creator of the Fire Protection Badge, a symbol worn proudly by all United States Air Force firefighters, Chief Garland led Air Force fire protection to the pinnacle of distinction we now enjoy. Professionalism was his hallmark. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor and pride that today we formally dedicate the Lewis F. Garland Fire Academy. Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to have with us today Chief Master Sergeant Knowles. Chief Knowles has known and worked with Chief Warrant Officer Garland since World War II when they were privates in Europe. And he has remained a close friend of the family since then. Today he will present some remarks. Chief Knowles.
I've already made it a kind of tough act to follow. Colonel Tabor, and your wife Ellen, Colonel Craig, Chief Warrant Officer Forbes, Stewart, Garland, Rusty, Ronnie, and Carol. We've been together a long time. Lou and I hooked up in August 1951 when he was just a young tech sergeant. Matter of fact, he's in reserves out of Beale Air Force Base in California. And he's been assigned as fire chief of the 51st Fighter Intercept Wing flying out of K-13, which is now, of course, Suwon Air Base. I came in from Maxwell Field and as a young 21-year-old staff sergeant who thought he knew everything in the world about fire protection until I met Lou Garland. And then I found out I didn't know a hell of a lot about anything. Lou set standards and he set priorities. And you work to those standards and those priorities or you found another job. There was no second guessing. We worked together there for about 6 or 7 months, and they called Lou up to the headquarters to meet the promotion board. Now this was before all the watch testing and all this stuff went on, when they had a group of colonels and you met the promotion board and you presented yourself to that promotion board and you either sold yourself or you did not sell yourself. Lou came back the next day and said, well, I made master sergeant. And I said, well, yeah, that's great. So he told me, he said, I have to stay at grade for a year. But after a year, he said, I'll be a warrant officer. I said, yeah. So Lou went back to Long Beach, California. MPC was good to me for once in their life. Plus, they sent me to Orlando Air Force Base. And they were so good to me, they left me there for 16 months and sent me right back to Korea. Well, on the way back to Korea, we stopped at a little aerodrome outside of Nagoya, Japan, to refuel. We were pretty close to the fire station. And as most firemen will do, you walk across to the fire station and say hello or whatever. And I walked over to the fire station and said, who's the fire chief? And the guy said, Mr. Garland. And I said, well, where do I find Mr. Garland? Oh, he's in the office. So I walked in the office, and lo and behold, there sat Lou Garland with warrant officer bars on his shoulders. He set his standards, he set his priority, and he made the goal. He left there, I think, went to Lindsay Air Station, am I correct, Gloria? Stayed down at Lindsay Air Station working for Ed Dickman for about 5 or 6 years. And then he came to the fire school. And when he came to the fire school, we had a lieutenant colonel there by the name of Colonel McGill, and he was retiring and in the process of shipping household goods and all this stuff. And he called me in the office and he asked me, he said, I understand that you know a warrant officer by the name of Garland. I said, yes, I do. He said, would you do me a favor and act as his sponsor while I finish with my base clearing and retirement? I said, certainly. So Lou and Gloria and the kids came in. We found them a place to live temporarily until the colonel got cleared out of the quarters. The K part was dedicated to the commandant of the fire school. Got them all moved in, Lou cleared in, and he came to work. I never will forget his first staff meeting. He called all of his senior instructors in and his block supervisors. And he said, I am here for one purpose, and that is to improve Air Force fire protection training and to improve the image of Air Force fire protection. Now, as Major Phillips mentioned, one of his first tasks was to design the Air Force Fire Protection Identification Badge. which he did, and he did a very well job. He got on an airplane, went to Washington, D.C., met with the uniform board, and told those people, if security police, doctors, lawyers, Indians, and chiefs can wear an identification badge, then by golly, Air Force Fire Protection should have a badge. And he sold it to them. And those badges that you're wearing today is a direct result of one of Lou Garland's priorities and one of the things that he accomplished and accomplished it well. Well, then he came back home and he got his wagons in a circle and his ducks in a row. And he got his private automobile and he drove down to Randolph Air Force Base and met with the high-level training folks. And he convinced those people that Air Force Fire Protection should be a Category A training. And every kid that come out of Lackland Air Force Base must go through formal training at the Air Force Fire Protection School. And he sold it to them. A lot of the fire chiefs out there can remember when every fire chief had his own training school. He was training those 57010s. Now they came out of there as a 3-level, and all they had to do then was progress on to the 5-7 and how fast they wanted to progress and how smart they were. Lou had, it comes to my mind in 3 major qualities. The first one, that being a leader. Lou Garland would not ask you to do anything that he would not do himself. He was a natural-born leader. You know, you don't train leaders. They come natural. And Lou was a natural-born leader. Secondly, he was an administrator. He could take a piece of paper from the higher echelon and do more with it than a monkey could with a football. He was good. He was exceptionally good. And he made no mistakes. But one of the biggest qualities of Mr. Lou Garland was that he was a communicator. And that's a big word in the service today and in the communities, in the civilian life. You've got to communicate with your people. Lou Garland could sit down and talk with a one-striper and make that kid understand exactly the points that he was trying to get across without intimidating anyone. And he could go back at 2 o'clock that afternoon and talk to a 4-star in fire protection language in a manner that that 4-star could also understand exactly the points that he was trying to make. He was just great. Lou Garland was my boss on 3 separate occasions. But first of all, I'd like to say that not just being a boss, Lou Garland was my friend. We hunted together, we fished together, we played golf together, and once in a while we had been known to have a drink together. Just once in a while. He was a great man. He was totally dedicated to improving the image of Air Force Fire Protection, and I think he did that, and I think we all appreciate that and appreciate it very much. Lou Garland was a great man. I have spoken to many groups in my 43 years in Air Force Fire Protection, but I feel like today is the greatest day of my career. To having been made a part of this dedication, and Colonel Tabor, I thank you very much, and the staff of the Air Force Fire Protection School, the work that went into it. Miles Butler, Ben Cheek, guys that was with us back at Chinook years and years ago, dedicated many, many hours to make this thing go right. And I'll quote Colonel Tabor, he said, "It will be right." And I don't think anybody had any problem understanding that. I don't think anybody had any problem understanding that at all. Well, we certainly appreciate having been made a part of this dedication to Lou Garland, my friend. and I thank you very much, and your hospitality has been tremendous. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Hope you have a safe trip back home. If I keep John Stokes on the road between here and Gulfport, Mississippi, we might turn a card. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Knowles. I'm sure you had a wonderful experience working with Chief Garland throughout the years. We're also pleased today to have with us Chief Master Sergeant Johns. Chief Johns also served with Warrant Officer Garland and is the last Chief Warrant Officer Garland rated. Chief Johns?
Colonel Tabor, Mr. Tabor, Doug said he had a tough act to follow. What do I have to follow? Back in '71, when I met Mr. Garland, I came to the school as a well, I guess you'd say, we need somebody, and they reached out and touched me. From Bowling Air Force Base to Chanute Air Force Base, Illinois. Gave me a deed, didn't even know what it was. Got me there. I hadn't seen the one Chief Master Sergeant in my, at that time, 9 years, and all of a sudden I have Chief Schmidt, Chief Knowles, and a Chief Warrant Officer. I hadn't seen so much rank in my whole Air Force career. But Doug made one point when he said Mr. Garland was a leader, and he was also in charge. He used to do his dog and pony shows. I believe Mr. Garland was probably ahead of his time in the quality Air Force that we have today, and we talk about quality. Mr. Garland was using quality back then. We used to have his dog and pony shows. If he'd had PowerPoint, it's hard to tell what we'd ended up with here at the school. But he'd get those slides going, and those guys would be humping. I mean, they'd just get out there and give his briefing. He told that briefing to anybody and everybody. He didn't care. He sold his program. He had his goal, and he met it. We used to have instructor fires. I don't know if the instructors have them here now, but anytime anybody came to visit Chanute, you'd have an instructor fire. And we're not talking little, we're talking big, and we're talking 06s, which is CO2 trucks, for some of you that may not have seen them, 011As, Bs, and we were using protein foam. Well, in Illinois, the wind blows, and if you know, it really blows. And it doesn't really get into your way of going when you want it to. So Mr. Garland briefed us that we were going to have an instructor fire, and he wanted the trucks to come in, and he wanted them to stop at the wings. Well, being the shy guy that I was, I raised my hand and I said, "Sir, you know, the wind's been coming out of the, I think it was north-south." Anyway, I said, "We've had to make tail approaches all week. You want us to come in on the rear?" "No, you'll come in on the front. Don't worry about the wind." Next day, we're in the burn area with the students. We're making tail approaches because the wind is blowing big time. Come time for the instructor fire, the wind changed. I figured the fire god was on his side. I don't know. But he definitely would get your point across. Looking at the picture, I guess really the one thing that I kind of think's missing are the glasses looking over them at you. Because he had a way of doing that then you knew you better give him your full attention. But his integrity, he was the instructor's best friend there at the school. He believed in them. He believed in Air Force fire protection, and he was an innovator. He was not afraid to try something new. To the instructors, both Marine, Army, and Air Force, and to the students that are coming behind them, don't be afraid to do something different. Don't be afraid to be innovative. Because what you see here is because man had a vision, and he was innovative on how he was going to sell that vision. And I think he did a fine job selling it, and this is what you have. I remember back in 73, 74, we would have settled for a building that was cool in the summer and warm in the winter, and all the classes were in one building. I definitely want to thank Sergeant Butler and Colonel Tabor for asking me to come down here and say these few words. I learned a lot working at the school as I was only a staff sergeant. But the one thing that Mr. Garland, I think, instilled in me was sell your program. Don't be afraid to stand up for what it is you want and tell it to anybody and everybody, because sooner or later somebody's going to listen to you and you're going to get your point across. So don't be afraid to sell your program, no matter how off the wall it may sound. Go for it, do it, and keep this fire school what Mr. Garland envisioned it to be, the finest in the United States, or for that matter, the world. Thank you very much.
I'm sure you're appreciating the impact that a great leader has from back in the Army Air Corps days of World War II up until today, and the impact that Chief Garland will continue to have throughout the Air Force for many, many years to come. Equally important to that military impact is the impact that the Chief had on his family. Today we have the Chief's son, Lou Garland Jr., Rusty, who will come up and make a few remarks for you.
Thank you. For those of you that knew my father very well, as Doug stated, he had many, many talents, one of which was public speaking. And about a week ago, my mom called me and she said, "Son, your sisters and I had a meeting, and she said, we decided you're going to be the best one to get up there and talk." So I hung up the phone, and I remember I sat down on the bed. I had the phone in the bedroom. I sat down and I said, "Lord," I said, "I'll give you all the talents I inherited from my dad. You'll give me 5 minutes of his speaking ability." So let's hope that worked. I also started thinking about what I might say today. I wanted to talk about Dad as a family man, which he was. He never really brought his work home with him, at least not to the kids. I imagine Mom got an earful once in a while, but we really kind of stayed out of it. I was just a kid, sisters, same way. We went to school, we had fun. We never really realized what great things Dad was doing in the field of fire protection for the United States Air Force. But I thought there must be one incident that I could relate to you that had to do with fire protection that might be appropriate here. And I thought, holy cow, here's one right here. 6th grade, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It was in May. The 6th grade was, I got this flyer from the teacher, take home to your parents like we all do. So I put the flyer on my book and go home, and at dinner that night I hand it to Mom, because most of those things go to Mom. And this one went from Mom around the corner, across the table to Dad. And I didn't even know what it was. Well, it turned out the 6th grade was having a fire prevention poster contest like they do in the spring. And that's what this was all about. And so that's why I went to Dad. And Dad sat there and he didn't eat much. Dinner was over, Mom's cleaning off the table, and he's still sitting there looking this thing over. And I thought, boy, this has got to be important. I better go see what it is. So I walked around, I looked over his shoulder, and at the top it told about the poster contest, and there was a $20 prize for first place. And I thought, my interest is up. And what better coordinator could I have than Dad here? And he wasn't looking at that part. He was looking at the little section at the bottom that said, all of the posters are going to be posted in the hallway of the commissary on base. And he kept staring at that, and he's thinking, and he's scribbling on a pad. I know what Dad's thinking. He's thinking that there's going to be a poster in the commissary for the whole base to see, and it's probably going to have Rusty Garland at the bottom of it. And that poster better have a blue ribbon on it. That's the longest week I have never spent that much time on a homework assignment, and Mom had to come in a couple of times and remind him whose project it was. My dad, another one of his talents was art. He could draw anything. I didn't get that one. I couldn't draw a circle with a compass in my hand. So Dad would put it down and show me what he wanted me to draw, and I'd try it. Not to his satisfaction. Mom had to go down and buy more poster board. Anyway, bottom line is, we worked real hard on it. And at the end of the week, on Saturday, I was $20 richer. Dad had a nice. And on behalf of my mom, my sister Carol, my sister Ronnie, and myself, I just want to thank everybody so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rusty. Mrs. Garland, we would like to present you with a small token of our esteem. The firefighter statue represents the experience, dedication to service, and knowledge necessary to teach firefighting and the commitment each firefighter holds in their heart. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the retirement of the colors. Please remain standing for the departure of the official party.
Medication. So the doctor came into my hospital room. He looked at Lou and he said, "There's only one thing you can do. Get her out of the area." Lou looked at me. "Guess you'll have to go live with your mother." It was his exact words. And that's how dedicated he was. And I could go on and on and on, but it'd be for no one. But it's really great to see all the people here. I can't believe it. And I thank everyone. Everybody has done such a great job. And I'm really appreciative of y'all. But don't take my picture.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the Lewis F. Garland Fire Academy dedication ceremony. There will be a luncheon reception for invited guests at the Officers Club at 1200. Thank you very much.